chosen ones, they tried to break you. They lied about you, turned people against you, and did everything they could to stop you. But they failed. No matter how hard they pushed, you refused to stay down. Every challenge, every betrayal, and every tear you shed was seen by the universe. Nothing went unnoticed. And now, the time has come for justice. The universe moves fast when it's time to set things right. Those who wronged you, those who thought they got away with hurting you, are about to face the consequences of their actions. The same traps they set for you are now turning against them. The harm they wished on you is returning to them. They never expected you to rise. They thought they had won. But what they didn't realize is that you were never alone. The universe was always working behind the scenes, turning your struggles into strength. While they were busy tearing you down, you were growing stronger. While they were celebrating your pain, the universe was preparing your breakthrough. Now, their time is up. The doors that were closed on you will open. The opportunities they tried to block will find you. The success they didn't want you to have is coming faster than they can handle. You are stepping into a season of victory, and nothing can stop it. Stand tall. The pain you went through was not for nothing. It was preparing you for something greater. Justice is here, and soon the world will see what was always meant to be, your rise. If you've ever faced betrayal, if they tried to bring you down, but you refuse to break, hit that like button, subscribe, and comment 999 below. This is the energy of final justice, the sign that the tables have turned and there's no going back. Now let's break this down step by step, because if you are truly chosen, you will feel this truth deep in your soul. Their downfall isn't coming, it's already happening. Let's get into it. The arrogance, how they thought they could destroy you. Some people see kindness as a vulnerability rather than a strength. They assume that because you are patient, forgiving, and willing to help, you are also easy to manipulate. They test your boundaries, taking advantage of your goodwill while giving little in return. When you offer understanding, they demand more. When you show empathy, they twist it into an opportunity to control. What they fail to see is that kindness is not a sign of weakness. It is a conscious choice. But they do not realize that until it is too late. In their arrogance, they saw your talent and effort as something they could claim for themselves. They smiled as you worked tirelessly, knowing that in the end, they would step forward and take the praise. They made sure that when success came, they stood in the spotlight while you remained in the shadows. They altered narratives, omitted facts, and presented your achievements as their own. If anyone questioned it, they brushed it off with charm and confidence, never expecting that the truth would eventually surface. They built their status on your efforts, thinking you would never challenge them. They understood that perception is powerful, so they spread whispers before you could speak for yourself. They crafted stories designed to damage your reputation, making others doubt your intentions. They framed you as difficult, untrustworthy, or undeserving, anything to ensure they remained in control. Every falsehood was carefully placed, each designed to make sure the world saw you through their lens. They were careful never to say too much at once, letting small lies build over time until even those who once supported you began to hesitate. They never thought these lies would come back to haunt them. To them, you were nothing more than a tool, a resource to be used and discarded when no longer useful. They climbed higher, knowing each step they took was at your expense. When you offered ideas, they ran with them as if they had thought of them first. When you worked late into the night, they slept comfortably, knowing you were doing the heavy lifting. When it was time for recognition, they were the ones accepting rewards while you remained invisible. They made sure you were always just one step behind, so you would never pose a threat to their success. They wanted you to believe that without them, you were nothing, never considering that you were the reason they stood where they did. Arrogance blinded them to reality. They believed they had built something unshakable, that their position, influence, and control would never be questioned. They assumed that because they had manipulated situations in the past, they could continue to do so indefinitely. They mistook silence for submission, never realizing that patience was not the same as acceptance. They saw themselves as untouchable, believing they had won the game. They never considered that what is built on deception and greed will always come crashing down, the moment of betrayal. When everything changed, manipulation is rarely obvious at first. It starts subtly, with small tests to see how much control they can gain. They placed you in situations where your choices were limited, making it seem like the only way forward was through them. They positioned themselves as the ones with the answers, the solutions, and the power, while slowly taking away your ability to make independent decisions. Every move they made was strategic, designed to keep you within their reach. If you questioned them, they acted as if you were overreacting. If you resisted, they twisted the situation to make you seem difficult or ungrateful. The goal was never just to control you. It was to make sure you didn't even realize you were being controlled. With each challenge they placed in your path, they observed your reactions, feeding off your frustration and pain. To them, your suffering was entertainment. Every failure, every moment of doubt, was proof that they had power over you. They did things that made your life harder, then stood back and watched as you tried to fix the damage they caused. If you stumbled, they acted as though it was your own fault. If you asked for help, they made you feel like a burden. Their words were never meant to guide you. They were meant to keep you doubting yourself. Your struggle wasn't accidental. It was something they carefully orchestrated, knowing that as long as you were too busy fighting battles, you wouldn't have the strength to challenge them. They knew that isolation was the easiest way to weaken you. Instead of attacking directly, they turned people around you into their weapons. They whispered in ears, planted doubts, and twisted truths until those you once trusted began to look at you differently. Friends became distant, colleagues turned against you, and even family members started questioning your intentions. You were left confused, wondering why the people you had always counted on were suddenly doubting you. But this was not by accident. It was a carefully laid plan. By controlling the narrative, they ensured that when you finally saw through their deception, you would have no one left to support you. The loneliness was meant to break you, to make you dependent on them for validation. They believed that by taking away your support system, they could take away your strength. The moment you were no longer serving their purpose, they acted as if you never existed. The same people who once needed you suddenly had no time for you. They ignored your calls, distanced themselves, and made it clear that you had outlived your usefulness in their world. They took everything they could from you, your time, your energy, your loyalty, and then moved on as if none of it had ever mattered. If you tried to question them, they acted indifferent, as if you were overreacting. They wanted you to feel disposable, to believe that your worth was tied to how much you could offer them. The coldness in their dismissal wasn't just a lack of care. It was a final act of control, designed to make sure you felt completely powerless in the aftermath. Arrogance convinced them that their actions had destroyed you beyond repair. They assumed that once they were done with you, you would have nothing left. They thought the damage they caused was permanent, that the wounds would never heal. In their mind, you would remain broken, forever trapped in the pain they inflicted. They never imagined that you would rise again. They never considered that everything they took from you could be rebuilt. They assumed their power over you was final, never realizing that the moment they betrayed you, they also set you free. The universe took notice. The shift began. At first, it wasn't obvious. The changes were small, almost too subtle to notice. A situation that should have gone against you unexpectedly worked in your favor. A problem that seemed impossible to solve suddenly had a clear solution. The obstacles they placed in your path started crumbling without any effort from you. It was as if an invisible hand was clearing the way, ensuring that what was meant for you could finally reach you. Every time they tried to pull you down, something unseen lifted you back up. They thought they had trapped you in a cycle of failure, but the very foundation of their plans was beginning to crack. The harder they tried to keep you stuck, the more the universe worked to free you. For so long, they had dictated the way others saw you. They planted seeds of doubt, controlled the narrative, and manipulated perceptions to keep you isolated. But suddenly, people began questioning what they once believed. Their influence wasn't as strong as it used to be. Those who blindly followed them started seeing inconsistencies in their words and actions. The charm that once captivated others lost its power. The whispers they used to control opinions were no longer enough. People who once turned their backs on you started to reconsider. Some apologized. Others kept their distance, but no longer worked against you. The web of lies they had spun for so long was unraveling, and they could feel it slipping out of their grasp. They had built their power on deception, carefully constructing a reality where they were always right and you were always wrong. But lies have an expiration date. One by one, the pieces they hid began surfacing. Someone they trusted slipped up. A detail they once controlled found its way into the open. A person who had been silent finally spoke the truth. It didn't happen all at once, but like cracks in a dam, the truth started seeping through. At first, they dismissed it, thinking they could still maintain control, but the more they tried to cover it up, the more obvious their guilt became. People began connecting the dots, realizing that the stories they had been told about you never quite added up. What was hidden was now coming to light, and for the first time, they had no way to stop it. They worked hard to block your success. They took credit for your ideas, shut doors in your face, and made sure you were excluded from chances that could have changed your life. But what is meant for you can only be delayed, never denied. The opportunities they once snatched away were finding their way back to you. Someone who had once rejected you was now reconsidering. A position that had been unfairly taken was suddenly available again. New paths were opening, some even better than what was originally lost. The same energy they used to keep you stuck was now working against them, clearing the way for you. They couldn't explain it, but they felt it. Something had shifted, and it made them restless. The control they once had wasn't working the same way. The fear they used to instill wasn't sticking. The certainty they had in their own invincibility was beginning to fade. They sensed that something was slipping through their fingers, but they couldn't quite grasp what it was. Every attempt to regain control felt forced, and for the first time, they were the ones feeling uncertain. The power they once wielded effortlessly was now a burden. The shift had begun, and deep down, they knew things would never be the same again. The signs of karma catching up to them. For a long time, everything seemed to work in their favor. No matter how unfairly they played the game, they always walked away victorious. But suddenly, the effortless wins stopped. The shortcuts that once gave them an advantage now led to dead ends. The people who once bent the rules for them were no longer willing to help. They found themselves struggling to achieve what used to come easily. Every move required extra effort, yet nothing seemed to go right. It was as if the universe had closed the doors they used to walk through so confidently. The same tricks they relied on were now failing them, leaving them frustrated and desperate for a break that never came. They spent so much time controlling others that they never expected to lose control themselves. But chaos started creeping in, slowly at first, then all at once. The plans they made fell apart. The stability they once took for granted crumbled beneath them. The certainty they had in their own power faded, replaced by doubt and confusion. They tried to hold everything together, but the more they tightened their grip, the more things slipped away. The smooth, predictable life they once enjoyed was now filled with setbacks, uncertainty, and problems they couldn't solve, no matter how much they fought against it. The feeling of being trapped in their own downfall became undeniable. They had built their world on manipulation, surrounding themselves with people who served their interests. But loyalty built on fear and deception never lasts. The same individuals they used to their advantage began seeing the cracks in their foundation. The allies they trusted started distancing themselves. Some betrayed them outright, revealing secrets they thought were safe. Others simply stopped defending them, no longer willing to protect their lies. Those who once obeyed without question now questioned everything. They found themselves increasingly alone, with no one left to cover for them, no one left to clean up their mess. And worst of all, they knew it was coming, but they were powerless to stop it. Whispers turned into rumors. Rumors turned into undeniable truths. The carefully crafted image they had built over the years was starting to crumble. People who once admired them now looked at them with suspicion. Their words no longer carried the same weight. Their name, once untouchable, was now stained with doubt and negativity. The lies they told were no longer effective because too many people had seen the truth for themselves. No matter how much they tried to control the narrative, their reputation had taken a hit they couldn't recover from. Every attempt to defend themselves only made things worse, exposing even more of the reality they worked so hard to hide. As the walls closed in, desperation took over. The fear of losing everything pushed them to make reckless choices. They lashed out at the wrong people, turning even more allies into enemies. They made impulsive decisions that only worsened their situation. They spent so much energy trying to regain control that they ended up destroying what little power they had left. The weight of their own actions crushed them, forcing them to confront the reality they tried so hard to avoid. The downfall they feared the most was no longer just a possibility, it had become their reality. And the worst part? They had no one to blame but themselves. The collapse, when everything fell apart for them. For so long, they thrived on control, over people, over situations, over outcomes. They dictated the rules, decided who succeeded and who failed, and bent circumstances to fit their desires. But power built on manipulation never lasts. Slowly, their grip weakened. The influence they once held over others vanished. Their words no longer carried authority, and their actions no longer sparked fear or admiration. Those who once obeyed without hesitation began to push back. The foundations they relied on, their status, their connections, their advantages, started to crumble beneath them. The empire they built on, lies and deception, collapsed, brick by brick, until they stood in the ruins of their own making, powerless to stop it. As everything slipped away, they began to see enemies everywhere. The people they once trusted now seemed like threats. Every conversation felt like a trap. Every glance held suspicion. They withdrew, convinced that betrayal lurked around every corner. The same confidence that once made them untouchable was gone, replaced by a constant state of fear. They second-guessed every decision, questioned every interaction. The isolation wasn't just physical, it was mental, emotional. They couldn't shake the feeling that someone was always watching, waiting for them to make a mistake. But in reality, they were simply watching their own downfall unfold, trapped in a cycle of fear that they couldn't escape. Once, their name carried weight. It opened doors, commanded respect, and demanded recognition. But now, it was met with whispers, avoidance, and mockery. The same people who once praised them now distanced themselves. The admiration turned into embarrassment. Their downfall wasn't just personal, it was public. Every mistake, every failure was discussed, dissected, and remembered. No matter where they went, their past followed. Their name no longer symbolized success or influence. Instead, it became a cautionary tale, a reminder of what happens when arrogance blinds a person to reality. And the worst part? They could hear the whispers, see the avoidance, feel the shift. They knew they had become a symbol of everything they once looked down upon. The things they fought for, lied for, and sacrificed others for. What did they even mean now? The wealth, the reputation, the possessions, none of it mattered when the foundation it stood on had collapsed. The success they once measured their worth by felt empty. The recognition they once craved turned into shame. The connections they used to build themselves up had disappeared, leaving nothing but loneliness. What once made them feel powerful now served as a painful reminder of what they lost. The world moved on without them, and everything they clung to had lost its meaning. They spent years chasing something they thought would last forever, only to realize it was never truly theirs to keep. They tried to deny it. They tried to run from it. They tried to pretend everything was still under control. But reality has a way of catching up, and no amount of avoidance could change what had begun. The consequences weren't just lingering in the shadows anymore, they were everywhere. No one believed their excuses. No one came to their rescue. They were left to face the mess they had created, alone and exposed. Regret started to settle in, but it was too late. The damage was done. They could no longer escape the weight of their own actions, and for the first time, they were forced to acknowledge a truth they had ignored for far too long. Karma never forgets. Your unstoppable rise. The universe's justice in action. You never wasted your time plotting against them. You didn't lower yourself to their level or scheme ways to make them pay. Instead, you focused on rebuilding, on stepping forward, on proving that your strength wasn't in destruction, but in growth. While they were busy watching their world fall apart, you were creating something new. Your success became the only answer needed, louder than words, sharper than retaliation. Without lifting a finger against them, you became the very thing they feared, someone who thrived despite everything they did to break you. The obstacles they placed in your way no longer mattered. The closed doors they once controlled no longer stood in your path. Without their interference, things began to move smoothly, as if the universe itself was clearing the way. Opportunities that once seemed impossible began to appear, ones that were even better than what was taken from you. The road ahead was no longer filled with struggle, because you were finally aligned with the right people, the right places, and the right energy. What once required force now flowed naturally, proving that when something is truly meant for you, no one can block it forever. They used to look at you through the lens of the lies they were fed. They assumed you were weak, incapable, or unworthy. But as the truth emerged, so did a shift in perspective. The very people who dismissed you before now saw your strength. They witnessed how you handled the betrayal, how you carried yourself without bitterness, how you continued forward despite everything. And now, instead of whispers of doubt, there were words of admiration. They respected your ability to endure, to transform, to rise, not because you fought back with anger, but because you fought back with unwavering determination. Your story was no longer just your own. Others looked at what you went through and found hope. They saw how you survived, how you turned pain into power, and how you refused to let what happened define you. Your presence alone became a reminder that no hardship is permanent, that no betrayal can steal a person's destiny. People who once felt powerless now saw a living example of what was possible. Without trying, you became a guiding light, proof that even the worst circumstances can be overcome with patience, strength, and trust in the bigger picture. Nothing from the past could reach you anymore. No words, no memories, no remnants of what happened had the power to shake you. The wounds they left behind had healed, not into scars of bitterness, but into marks of wisdom. You no longer needed validation, no longer feared their return, no longer cared about their opinions. Their presence or absence made no difference because you had already won in the way that mattered most. Your energy was untouchable, your peace unbreakable, and your future unstoppable. How to protect yourself from future betrayal. People reveal their true nature in small ways long before they cause harm. A slight shift in their tone, a forced smile, or a question that feels more like a test. These are the clues that often go unnoticed. Someone who flatters excessively may be hiding an agenda. A person who consistently downplays your achievements might secretly resent you. Pay attention to inconsistencies in their words and actions. If someone only shows kindness when they need something, but vanishes when you're struggling, that's a warning. Betrayal rarely happens overnight. It begins with small deceptions that grow into larger ones. Your emotions are your strength, but when placed in the wrong hands, they can be used against you. People who seek control often do so by playing with your feelings, making you doubt yourself, reacting in anger, or feeling the need to prove your worth. The moment someone realizes they can push you to react a certain way, they begin to pull those strings whenever it benefits them. By staying centered, by choosing your responses wisely, you deny them that control. No one should have the power to shake your confidence or dictate your emotions. The stronger your inner foundation, the harder it is for anyone to manipulate you. The more people know about your next move, the more room there is for interference. Some will pretend to support you while secretly hoping for your downfall. Others will spread doubt, making you question yourself before you've even begun. And then there are those who will actively try to block your progress, whether out of envy, insecurity, or a desire to keep you beneath them. Protect your dreams by keeping them sacred. Speak on your victories when they have already taken form, not while they are still in the making. A hidden seed grows stronger, undisturbed by outside forces. The company you keep shapes the energy you carry. Negative people drain you. even without direct attacks. Those who constantly complain, gossip, or belittle others create an environment where growth is impossible. Instead, align yourself with those who inspire you, who celebrate your wins without resentment, who offer wisdom instead of criticism. True support doesn't come with conditions or hidden motives. When you surround yourself with those who genuinely uplift you, you not only protect yourself from future betrayal, but you also elevate your entire path. The right people will never require you to dim your light for them to shine. Betrayal doesn't just hurt the mind, it disrupts your energy. The weight of deception lingers, creating invisible wounds that can pull you into a cycle of fear and distrust. This is why it's essential to cleanse, ground, and shield yourself regularly. Whether through meditation, prayer, affirmations, or simply spending time in nature, protecting your spirit is just as important as protecting your mind. Just as you wouldn't leave your home unlocked for strangers, don't leave your energy open to those who seek to harm. The stronger your spiritual armor, the less vulnerable you become to those who wish to deceive you. The final revelation: justice has been served. No matter how much time passes, no wrongdoing escapes the balance of the universe. What was taken from you, your peace, your opportunities, your name, was never truly lost. It was only being held until the right moment. Justice does not always arrive in ways people expect. Sometimes it comes as a slow unraveling, where those who thought they were untouchable begin to experience the weight of their own actions. Other times, it is swift, a moment that shatters their illusion of control. The universe does not operate on human timelines, but it never fails to restore balance. Everything that happened was not meant to break you, but to transform you. It was a process, one that burned away illusions, tested your strength, and forced you to see your true power. If they had never tried to bring you down, you might have never discovered how high you could rise. Pain, betrayal, and injustice were never meant to define you. They were only meant to refine you. The version of you that exists now, the one who has risen from this storm, is far beyond the one they tried to destroy. One of the greatest consequences for those who plotted against you is that they can no longer deny your rise. They see it. They feel it. They know that despite every effort to keep you down, they failed. What once brought them satisfaction, watching you struggle, has now turned into their greatest torment. Every step forward you take is a reminder of their own downfall. They are no longer in control of the story. They are no longer the ones dictating your path. Their only option is to watch, knowing they can never undo what has already been set in motion. There is no going back. The foundation you have built is solid. You no longer operate from a place of fear or doubt. The trials that once made you question yourself have only strengthened you. Unlike them, your success is not built on deception, manipulation, or temporary power. It is built on truth, resilience, and the support of the universe itself. Because of this, no setback, no obstacle, no scheme can take it away from you. What is yours, and no one can touch it. What happened was not just about proving something to them, it was about stepping into something greater. This victory is not the final chapter. It is the opening to an entirely new journey. The universe has more in store for you than you ever imagined. More opportunities, more abundance, more clarity, more purpose. What you thought was an ending was only a transition. And now, as the dust settles, as justice is fully realized, the path ahead is clear. Final message. They tried to destroy you, but in the end, they destroyed themselves. Justice has been served, and your new chapter begins now.